Okay, but this morning our first speaker is Anthony Cataldo. And he's a Hollywood producer. He's a good friend of mine. And his wife, Inez. Inez. I keep saying Inez, Inez, okay. But he is just finishing up a movie about UFOs. And he's going to be talking about that and has unusual name, 701. And he's going to be explaining what that name means. But you've been going all over the world investigating cases. And I was surprised. He told me about cases that I have never even heard of. And I thought I've been in this so long I'd heard of all of them. But there's some I hadn't. And you're doing updates on older cases too for the movie. But he's going to be talking about some that I've never heard of when you went to Brazil. So he gets around a lot. I don't have the paper here, but Tony has done at least 10 major films with old top-name stars in Hollywood. And also his other background, he's a businessman, very much involved in companies, and so he's got a very varied background. But right now he's focused on making this movie and other movies. Okay, but let's welcome Tony, I call him Anthony Tony Cataldo. Okay.
Thank you. Hi. I'm actually one of the few not related to Dolores Cannon. I saw 3 other hands. The rest of you are all relatives, I presume. And, I met Dolores a little bit over a year ago, and it's just, I am part of the family now. I think anybody that gets a chance to meet Dolores Cannon can't help but feel engaged and involved in whatever it is she's doing. And at her young age, I think actually the first time I met her was back in Rome during the Roman days, according to her. And then I think we caught up again in Ireland somewhere in some German war and things like that. So she actually had to talk me into doing a regression on me because I didn't know any of this stuff. So I kind of came, my entire life is, I kind of come onto things and get thrown into things accidentally. And so I was a Wall Street guy, and I worked my way up. I'm from Ohio too, so I'm a Midwesterner just like most of you guys. They don't know what to do with us in Hollywood. They're like, wow, you're so honest. I'm like, and that is what? So, and you're nice. I'm like, yeah. Then they go, oh, you must be from Ohio. I'm like, yeah. The place where they show all the, like 70% of the, have you guys seen Hoarders? Right, 70% of the Hoarders things are Ohioans. And I'm really afraid because some of my relatives are going to be on that show. Hopefully not me. All right, so anyways, my background is, I came through Wall Street. I ended up becoming chairman and CEO, several publicly traded companies in areas that I had no idea, no clue what they were. I was chairman of a biotech company for cancer research and chairman of a telecommunications company, chairman and CEO. And in each event, I really don't know, but I think so. Somewhere in a past life, and Dolores probably knows it, I must have done something right. So, and now here I am. I've been in Hollywood now for, I guess, about 15 years. And I accidentally happened in Hollywood because one of the companies, Canon Films, some of you may know it, they were famous for doing Kickboxer and Delta Force and all those action films. They were a publicly traded company, and the investors there said, hey, it needs fixing, Tony. Can you take a look at it? And I said, I don't know anything about filmmaking. And they went, well, you don't know anything about biotech companies either, but it doesn't stop you. So, and another thing I don't know anything about is I've just been named to the board of MUFON. So I'm probably the least qualified guy on that board because that board's great. But I do seem to get things done for one reason or another. So I looked at this genre, and I was very, very foreign to it. And are there any aliens or extraterrestrials in the audience? Because you have to pay too, okay? You must pay. And Dolores is quite the enforcer. So I didn't really have much exposure to it. I was always a science fiction buff, and I was always engaged in the subject. I was always very interested in that. And I always felt that, look, the universe is a very big place. Of course, there's other sentient life forms. How could there not be? How could we be that arrogant to think there wasn't? And so as that went along, and my out of the group, we're doing a film called 701. And I'll get into that momentarily. But my partners in 701 are some pretty well-known folks in this genre. And that's Tracy Torme. Some of you may know him. Tracy is a Hollywood A-list writer. He wrote Fire in the Sky. You guys, Travis is here, so Tracy was a writer for that. Contact, I Am Legend. He's an award-winning writer. And Tracy's my producing partner, along with James Fox. James did 4 pretty significant documentaries on UFOs. You've seen James on TV, on Larry King Live, whatnot. My partner and my wife, Ines Romero. Ines has been a UFO researcher her entire life, as well as having been in Hollywood working on films like Invasion and all that stuff. And so Ines was the one who actually put us all together from a meeting which was about a year and a half ago called The Gathering, which was done in Philadelphia. A very good friend of mine who funded that whole thing. And she came up to me during that meeting. She had talked to James Fox and said, James he wants to do another documentary. He's got a pretty good idea. He's working with Tracy Torme. And I think we ought to get involved. And so to make a long story short, we did. Our first conversation with Ines and James and Tracy was, hey, look, when they said the documentary, I said, there's just a ton of documentaries on the television. They've been there, done that. They're good. They're good television product. But I'm not interested in doing a TV documentary. If we could do this in a genre that's more conducive to bringing in more folks, and that is a feature film documentary, then I'd be interested. And we decided that we could carry that off and we could do that. So this will be different than any documentary that you've ever seen. 701, there was a thing called Project Blue Book. Project Blue Book, most of you or a lot of you are familiar with. It was a government study done over a 15-year period of time where they evaluated, analyzed, kicked the tires on over 12,600 cases of reported cases that they felt had some validity to them. And out of those 12,600 and some odd cases, they could debunk everything, marsh gas, the lights of Venus, somebody's cigar smoke, whatever. They could not debunk 701 of the cases. And actually, it was Ines who kind of picked that out. You guys will get to meet her. Another thing that happened to me is everyone kept talking about, your wife's a Nordic. Well, I'm like, of course, she's from Copenhagen. And I come to realize that that's not what they meant, Nordic. I'm like, so I guess I married an alien. So you'll understand that she's tall. I guess that's what Nordics are, but so are Scandinavians. All right. So we got that together. The 701 cases where the government just couldn't say it was marsh gas or whatever, that there was just too much prevailing evidence that said it was something that was truly an unidentified object, or UFO, whatever you want to call it. And we thought, wow, that's a great catalyst for going out and putting together this film. So this film will cover some of the stuff that you've heard of. We're not going to focus on Area 51 and Roswell because, like most lay people, like I used to be, we all know about Area 51. We know about Roswell. And I think most of the folks, can gather their minds around that, yeah, it's just likely that did happen. But there are so many other cases that have gone on around the world that really got little or no attention. Is that Kim? Sorry. So we were going to show you some. We've been going all around the world, filming different cases, putting in different attributes to those cases. But the film 701 is going to cover some cases. It's going to cover some new material that none of you have ever seen. We have a source I'll talk about later that we can't name. That came to us, and a lot of things are coming to us because it's a Hollywood feature film. And my background If you go on IMDb, internationalmoviedatabase.com, imdb.com, and type in Tony Cataldo, I've done 14 feature films with guys like Anthony Hopkins, Christopher Walken, Dan Aykroyd, Kim Cattrall. It's a decent list. And so I've done feature films before, some of them action, some of them romantic comedy, etc. This is a departure from the stuff that's normal in a Hollywood film. It's a hybrid film. So when you start seeing this, what we're going to show you today is just 4 clips of 4 of the cases that we're going to be covering. We're going to cover probably 11 to 12 cases. This will be a 2-hour Hollywood feature film. What I like about the Hollywood film making and the feature film and theatrical releases is that it hits a much broader audience. All of you that are here today are truly committed to the whole ufology genre. And there's involvement and commitment. And to me, I always liken being involved and being committed are 2 different things. It's kind of like bacon and eggs. The chicken's involved, but the pig is committed. So you're all a bunch of pigs. So am I. And that's what I wanted to do, and what we as my partners want to do in this film, is we want to bring people over from involvement to commitment, to get them really engaged in the subject matter. And in this subject matter, the things that I've come to learn over the last year and a half is that when you talk about UFOs, and then oddly enough, out of those partners I have, Ines, Tracy Torme, James Fox, I'm the only one who actually saw one. And my sighting I saw in 2001 with my then producing partner, my very, very dear good friend, Martin Landau. Marty is a Hollywood actor, Oscar-winning actor. We've been friends for a long time. We were sitting on my back porch in my Napa property, which has just a bunch of vineyards, a lake, and just 3 miles of nothing but mountains. And we just all of a sudden looked up, and there was this massive entity. It was kind of like a gigantic full moon. It was the size of an aircraft carrier. It just appeared. It was translucent. There was a low hum. Marty elbows me in the ribs. He goes, "Oh my God, Tony, are you seeing this?" I'm like, "How could I miss it?" And then he went, "Thank God, because you know I'm old." So I'm like, "No, Marty, it's..." Hello? There we go. So I thought they did that to me. So we looked at this. I don't know how long it was there. It had this very low hum. It just stayed there, and it was maybe 1,000 or 2,000 feet above the little lake behind my house. And then it just took off in a speed that I've never known or nothing I've ever seen. I was in the Air Force. I know technology. So it was nothing that we did, and clearly it was something unidentified. And so we talked about it for a while. When it left a concussion of air that flattened the vineyards, the vines, and then ultimately spread out slowly, hitting us with a big blast of air. And we thought we were the only 2, and then later on, my wife Ines found out that there was a report. It was reported in the city of Napa actually did see it too. So it's nice not to stand alone on those things. But the reason I bring that up is when you tell folks that you've seen a UFO or, an extraterrestrial or whatever, you're treated really strangely, And when I tell folks, it's, let's see here. I've got to do this. All right, here's what I hear in my mind. You're traveling to another. Right? And that's the way they look at you, right? Like the Twilight Zone has just come on, that theme music. And so that's kind of how you get discounted, right? And that's also plays into where people want to give credibility to a subject matter. There's so much other noise going on out there that when you do something in this arena, that you have to really try your best to put it out professionally. And you have to let folks know, and I think the community in general has got to let some folks know that it's not Billy Bob standing, and I don't mean Billy Bob Thornton, worked with him too. It's not some guy standing out on the bank of the Mississippi River chewing tobacco. These are airline pilots, senators, ex-presidents, airplane pilots are a very good source. Generals, people of, sound mind, scientific backgrounds, who have engaged in the subject matter and are committed to it and have seen this sort of thing. And so behind all of this is the type of messaging that not only do we want to do with our movie 701, but I think all of you have to kind of carry forward. And that is to give it, some credibility and not take it into that genre that it's just a bunch of kooky people getting together, spending time talking about an alien they had a beer with. So we're doing that. So what I'm going to show you right now is this is not the full, the film will actually have a storyline going through it. It will actually have cases. We'll do is we'll show, there'll be interviews. We have interviewed people from the former head chief of staff of the Air Force, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Tony McPeak. Story Musgrave, the astronaut who has the most miles ever in the history of mankind in space. We've had those kind of people come forward. And that also is an advantage of a Hollywood feature film. You can get to a very high level person because they'll treat it a lot more seriously than just a television documentary. So we're able to attract those things. And what you're about to see is 4 cases that we are going to cover. You're just going to see some of the peripherals of it, not the full thing. This is a draft. This is a rough draft. Ordinarily, as a Hollywood producer, I wouldn't show you guys this stuff, but in this particular genre, we can. It'll just give you a taste of what we're going to do. Keep in mind, there'll be a real full story in this. This will be a regular, full-fledged Hollywood feature film. The subject matters are actually going to be recreated, just like when you saw Close Encounters of the Third Kind. It'll be that type of graphics, that type of quality film producing. And it also, one of the things that I liked about the feature film and doing it this way, where you show you do the recreation, then you bring on the actual people it happened to. Then you bring on the experts with the evidence. And then you regurgitate it, right? Cogitate, whatever you want to call it. And then you go on to the next one. And throughout this entire thing, there's a woven story that we weave so that it is an actual film. It's a movie. It's a feature film documentary. So I'm going to go ahead and show you this, then we'll talk about it for a little bit, and then I'll give you a little bit more information on other things, and then we'll open the forum to a question and answer period. So I hope you guys enjoy this, and let's see if I can get this going here. Green. See, this is, I remember I said that thing about the least smart guy in the room. Okay, here we go.
Mr. May, I come from space. I eat sugarcane. I eat sugarcane.
I saw this maroon color in the sky, and me and my friends were following it.
It was a silver oval thing that flew past really slowly.
All I saw was a silver flash, just like that.
It was shiny. It had a silver shiny thing on the end.
And then I saw something shining and somebody sitting on it.
We saw this like a silver thing down there, and then we saw this black man dressed in black, and he had long hair up to here, and he had big eyes.
And then I saw this black figure, and it was running in slow motion.
His eyes were here, and it was like a bit scary, and we couldn't really get the picture of his nose properly.
He had a big head and big black eyes and was dressed in a black bodysuit.
And how big was the figure?
It was about as big as a grade 6.
How far away were you when you saw him?
Not very far, about a meter away.
A meter away, that close?
Yes.
I think they're trying to tell us something which is going to happen, or which something's going to happen, or I think that they're good people because they're showing us all these things that other people don't believe in.
They went about a meter off the ground and then they just vanished.
And what happened to the big one?
The big one did the same.
all of a sudden it was just like imaging going through my head of a message, trying a communication. I described it as like a telepathic communication. There was no talking.
For me, I didn't have any form of communication with it. It didn't speak to me or say anything to me, but I remember being very captivated by the eyes. And in that moment, however long it was, because I have no idea of the time frame, it was mesmerizing. It was absolutely captivating.
As soon as I saw it, I knew that this was something from another planet or something from out of this worldly space.
People need to know there is something else out there.
There was a police officer, Lonnie Zamora, in Socorro, New Mexico. He was following a speeder. As he was following the speeder, he saw off to his right in the southwest, he saw a brilliant kind of a blue-white flame. It looked like it might be dropping down or descending. He didn't understand it, so he dutifully left the speeder and turned to the southwest up a hill.
When I got up on top of the mesa there, I looked down and I seen this big white object on the ground. I could see some figures.
Lonnie told him that he had seen some small beings that looked like children around the craft.
They were no taller than maybe 2.5, 3 feet tall.
He never wandered more than about 3 feet away from his patrol car when the craft took off. He just could not compute at that moment what this thing was, other than it was raising vertically straight up.
And at that time, nobody knew what a UFO was. That's when they started putting it on the papers.
The unusual size of the occupants, I knew that the government, nobody else hires midgets to fly ultra-secret Black Project craft.
There were 2 sets of footprints. I saw them with my own eyes. That's about the size of them. It happened right here. And I was here 15 minutes after, and I saw the smoldering, I saw the footprints, and I saw the imprints of the unit.
The behavior of the technology, the way it rose up on this mysterious ground-knifing flame, the way it flew off horizontally without a sound, at least so far as Zamora could hear, the way it climbed to beyond supersonic speed, all of these things suggest that it was by no means a 1964 technology, and in fact, there's nothing today that could duplicate that technology. This is the best documented close encounter of the third kind that has ever been.
The United Press has been right after you every minute. The Associated and United Press all over the nation has been after this story. It's been on every newscast over the air and in every newspaper I know of. We are honored indeed to have here in our studio this man, Kenneth Arnold, who we believe may be able to give us a first-hand account and give you the same on what happened.
So I was approximately 25 to 28 miles from Mount Rainier, and I noticed to the left of me a chain which looked to me like the tail of a Chinese kite. They seemed to flip and flash in the sun just like a mirror. I kept looking for their tails. They didn't have any tails. They didn't fly in the conventional formation that's taught in our Army. They seemed to kind of weave in and out right above the mountaintops. And the best calculation I could figure out, now even in spite of error, would be around 1,200 miles an hour. And to my knowledge, there isn't anything that I read about outside of some of the German rockets that would go that fast.
They flew like a saucer would if you skipped it across the water. They said that my father got a sighting of flying saucers got more attention than the ending of World War II, and he became extremely famous. The Air Force doesn't kind of know what to do about the situation because it was very perplexing to them. My father became so famous so quickly, and it frightened them. You know, my father and mother received 10,000 letters from people all over the world. So when military intelligence came to my parents' home in person, the first thing they did, they asked to go through all of their mail.
The Air Force gave your father some photographs.
Yes. The military intelligence, when they gave him these photographs, they told him in person they believed that these were authentic pictures. They were given to him by 4th Air Force Military Intelligence at Hamilton Field, California.
I'd be glad to confirm it with my hands on a Bible because I did see it, and whether it has anything to do with our Army or our intelligence or whether it has to do with some foreign country, I don't know.
We may have an answer for it before night. There will probably a story come out on it from the Army or Navy saying that it is a new secret plane, and that will be all there is to it, and they will hush up the story, or perhaps that we will finally get a definite answer to it. I understand the United Press.
Muita gente acredita que trata-se de extraterrestre. E dizem também que o ser foi capturado pelas autoridades e é mantido escondido em algum lugar.
O corpo dele também, que ele estava agachado com a mão no meio das pernas. Grande, uns olhos super regalados, vermelho. Nossa, mas de jeito nenhum.
The Varginha case is not only our best case in Brazil, but I consider this to be one of the best UFO cases in the world. About 4 a.m., a couple saw it looked like a minivan.
O que é isso aí?
A gente ficou parado.
Porque estava flutuando. Estava flutuando no passo aí. Até eu brinquei com ela. Eu sei, esse negócio parece um submarino?
Foi o que ele falou.
Flutuando. It wasn't making any noise at all.
A gente já avistou por causa do gado, por causa do barulho dos gados que corria.
O que passou aqui não foi um avião, não foi balão, não foi carro, não foi trator. É um objeto de outro mundo, de outro planeta. Que passou aqui.
Three girls walking through a empty field.
O que a gente viu foi uma coisa pequenininha, encostada, tava com o olhar de medo, da mesma forma que a gente teve medo. Então, na hora eu falei, nossa, e assim, como o sol tava batendo, tava brilhando, uma pele meio oleosa. Então foi o que chamou bem a atenção nossa.
The three girls were Liliane, Valkyria and Katia. And they described the creature with full of details that matches the details that we have from other sources.
Na hora que eu olhei nos olhos, que eu gritei, que ele me olhou e eu olhei.
O que ele passou para mim naquele momento que foi tão rápido, foi de que eu estou sofrendo.
Marco Elixerese, which was 23 years old only at that time. He had one infection, another infection.
Mas todo o sistema imunológico dele misteriosamente desapareceu após ele ter contato com a estranha criatura que ele capturou na noite do dia 20 de janeiro de 1996.
And eventually he died.
No hospital, a gente conversou o seguinte, eu perguntei para ele, falei assim, esse caso do ET realmente é verdade? Ele virou para mim assim, esse caso ainda vai dar muito pano pelas mangas ainda. Ainda vai ter muita coisa para poder falar.
Tudo que é desconhecido deve ser considerado perigoso. Porque se não for, você deu sorte. Mas se você acha que não é perigoso e for perigoso, você está morto.
Por quê? Por que o Dr. René hoje não está em Varginha? Onde que ele está? E aí? Quais são as respostas que tem para me dar?
The Varginha case is considered the most well-kept secret in the military circles of Brazil.
Thank you. So what you saw there was, like I said, those were, the first one, Rua, Zimbabwe. Those were the actual children. that were interviewed just a day or two after the sighting, after their close encounter. The last one, Varginha, was the children again, and then as adults. Same thing in Rua, Zimbabwe. You saw the interviews of the kids, and then 20 years later, we brought them to Los Angeles and spent a few days with them. And what was interesting about it was, if there was ever a case that really pushed me solidly into the camp where all of you are, it's that one. What I like about those two cases, I like all of the cases, don't get me wrong. Socorro is very well documented. Kenneth Arnold kind of started this whole thing. But what I like about those cases is that, we all know there's skeptics out there. But when you're talking about kids 6 years to 11 years old, there's no hidden agenda there. They're not there to make money. They're not talking about it to gain fame. They're just telling you what you saw. And in that case, right after it happened, several governments descended on Rua, Zimbabwe. There was plenty of things. Like I said, what we will do is we will recreate each of these cases as an actual mini film during the 701 movie. But after that, there were reports on radar. There were military sightings of UFOs all around the area. And so there is a lot of evidence that supports these things. One of the things that happened was Dr. John Mack, a Harvard psychiatrist. The United States sent Dr. Mack, who specialized in children's psychiatry, went to Rua, Zimbabwe, and those were his interviews. We have the rights to those from the family. They were very gracious to grant us those rights. We are going to use it in the movie. And after interviewing him, there were 64 children that really had the close communication and telepathic communication from the beings. After interviewing all of these children, this is a very qualified person, he came back with his report to the United States government and said, these children are not lying. This isn't mass hysteria. This really happened. And so those are, things that speak louder to me and hopefully to the audience when you have children involved without an agenda. Same thing in Varginha. And I'm not saying that Socorro or anything else that any of you have ever experienced has an agenda, but you're looked at as somebody who would be able to have an agenda. You can't look at a 7-year-old in the eye and say, what's your agenda? Are you running for politics? Well, maybe today they might be. But that's my point. I think that holds a lot of substance. So I'm very, very excited about that. When we do these recreations, these will, like I said, they'll be Hollywood style. They'll also have brand actors, folks that you probably know. I can't get into the names, but there are some A-list people we're talking to. And so that will also help drive people to the theaters. And my own personal goal is to get as many people to see it, not because you want to make money. In Hollywood, that's fine. There's no sin about it. But more to get folks, to bring folks into the camp so that a larger voice can be heard in bringing out this phenomenon, treating us all like adults and letting us, have our say and seeing what's really out there. One of the things that we, the producers in 701, have kind of come to is that the massive conspiracy theories kind of play into what the government really wants to happen. The government is really not incentivized to stopping any conspiracy theory, because the real truth is what we think is that they just don't know what the agenda is. One of the presidents that we spoke to had come out and said, the question is, why don't they land on the White House lawn? Well, if you can get there from whatever those vast distances, there really isn't anything our government can contribute to you, all right? You really don't need, the Russian government, France, us, anything. So, and we don't know what their agenda is. That's the reoccurring theme, is we really don't know. We don't think anybody really understands the phenomena. It'll take us time. We did a lot of significant interviews during the process of making the film. Like I said, from you name it, senators, generals, heads of state, et cetera, et cetera. One of the interviews that kind of caught me, maybe because I'm a, Italian-American Catholic boy, was we interviewed Father Spitzer. Father Spitzer is a Jesuit priest. He's formerly the president of Gonzaga University. He is a physicist, holds 9 degrees, and is in charge of all of cosmology and science for the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church has a massive library, the largest library on the planet Earth in history. And another thing the Catholic Church that I found out was that the Catholic Church actually owns the world's largest telescope in Arizona. And they man it. It's all Jesuit. The Jesuits are kind of the Marine Corps of the Catholics, right? They're the educated guys. They handle, all of those things. And some of the questions that we asked them, well, I found was pretty interesting. One of them was, what's the Catholic Church's position? They've come out with a proclamation that ETs exist and that God is God for all, and that's fine. That's very Catholic. But his answers were pretty elegant, and he went, look, and we said, the two questions were, what's the Church's positions on extraterrestrial life? And then the other was, what about the UFO phenomenon? On the first question, he said, look, I am a Jesuit priest, he said, but I'm a physicist. I'm a doctor in physics and astronomy and nuclear, like I said, many degrees. He said, and as a scientist, he said, the universe is a very large place. And he said, just in our galaxy, the Milky Way, we now know that there may be over 1 trillion planets that could support life. He said, and that's just in this galaxy. Now multiply that in the many galaxies, and the numbers are mind-boggling. He said, so of course, it would be really arrogant not to say that there is other life form. Of course there's other life. He said, that we feel pretty confident about. He said, and then the distances are very distant. And I said, well, okay, then I think, Inez, you were interviewing him. And the next question was, well, what about UFOs? And he said, well, UFOs. He said, think about it this way. We know, and again, as a physicist, he said, we know that the universe is at least 13 billion years old. That's a long time. He said, and out of that, he said, think about the amount of the advancement of technology over the last 100 years and how far we've come in technology. He said, now imagine a society like ours that started 200 million years before we did. And he said, so where would their technology be? He said, they could come here in ways we can't even conceive of. And I thought that was a really sound, interesting way of articulating the phenomena. So certainly those types of things, and throughout the movie you will see a disbursement of those types of interviews with very high-profile people. And so that's kind of where our goal is. Then the other things that we've done, and that I wanted to mention, is that we do have a source that's come to us, a very high-profile source, doesn't live in the United States. We have to talk about him anonymously because he's providing us with information from things that nobody else has ever been able to get a hold of. And this person, needs to remain anonymous. And, if you connect the dots, you guys might even be able to figure it out, but we're going to do our best to keep it under wraps. And there are some things that we're getting out of that source that we're very proud of and that haven't been seen. And I obviously didn't show it here today because I want you to go to the movie theaters and bring your family, and, Dolores can supply the popcorn. Okay. And so that's going on. The other thing I wanted to mention before I open up the floor to is that most recently I've just been added to the board as an executive director on the board of directors of MUFON. Again, being the stupidest person in the room on that. But for some reason they wanted me to join. I'm very excited about that. I think MUFON now is really poised. It's an amazing brand. It's been around for 45 years. And it's time for MUFON to take a more assertive step towards bringing this phenomenon out front and to be helpful and to bring some real resources to that. So I'm very pleased to be with them now. And I was glad that they decided to bring me into the fold. I'll work very hard for them. And I understand there's a luncheon. Do I get to have free lunch because I'm part of MUFON? Yeah, yes, Debbie? Okay. All right. So that's kind of what we're doing in a nutshell. So if you guys have any, Ines, why don't you come up? If you have any questions, be happy to entertain them. If not, that's okay too. Don't feel you have to have a question. But there we go.
All questions and answers can be asked on stage right, your left, right over here, if you have any questions.
Here we go. Mom?
Thank you, son.
I'm sorry. There was a question being yelled? What was that?
When will your movie be released?
Hopefully next spring. All right. And people know, in Hollywood filmmaking, it's usually like a 2-year process. It's, it takes a lot of things. We'll also have music in the film that will be from folks that you recognize. There are some very famous musicians that have had direct experiences. Rihanna, as an example, has hired a full-time person 24/7 to investigate UFOs and things that are happening, and she gets a report every day. Her family was very engaged in the subject matter. Her father's an engineer, Katy Perry also. So there's the idea here, again, because it's a Hollywood film, is to engage celebrities in it to draw more people into the fold. Okay, so questions?
Have you heard from the military-industrial complex? And also, have you come across any whole families involved in abductions?
The answer is yes to both. One of the interviews, several actually, but certainly one of the interviews in the film is General Anthony Merrill McPeak. Tony McPeak was Chief of Staff of the Air Force under Bush. He was also co-chairman of the elect Obama campaign. He was also on the Joint Chiefs of Staff. We did interview General McPeak. And then the second part of that question was families and abductions. Do you want to take that one?
Well, some of the kids from Rua, Zimbabwe, they're not comfortable talking about it yet, but they have alluded to the fact that there has been more happening, and some of them also with family members in the past and currently.
We also did, we interviewed Travis, of course. Travis is a good friend of Tracy's, and now we're friends also. And Travis's real story, I don't want to steal Travis's thunder. I understand he's here. I'll let him tell you about that stuff. But Travis is also part of the 701.
Yeah, hi. You mentioned some of the artists that might be involved, musical artists. Have you selected a music director to do the main score?
Not just yet, but we will. There's several. I actually have a music background, oddly enough, in a past life. And actually, no, it was this life. In a past life, it was something else. And so the answer is, yeah, we certainly will have a full-fledged music director, and music's a very important part of everything that goes on, particularly in feature films.
All right. Yeah, I was hoping you'd have some kind of a great full orchestral score, because a lot of the documentaries in the past have, because of the budget restrictions and things, they've used kind of bare bones synthesis and stuff.
Yeah, you're right. This will be a full-fledged, full production film. The amount of money we've already spent just on interviews and just little things is more than any documentary you've ever seen.
Okay,
Right?
and real briefly also, I wanted to ask you if you'd chosen a CGI firm and if you'll be releasing any clips ahead of time, a little short.
There's an entire marketing campaign that goes on with a feature film. This will be distributed by one of the big boys, Warner Brothers, Paramount, et cetera, et cetera. It will have all the bells and whistles on any feature film you've seen. I'm not really at liberty to, we're interviewing some of those as we speak right now.
All right, thank you very much.
Sure thing.
Yes, I'm very happy that you, I wanted to learn more about this incident in Brazil, Varginha. And is it true that the United States government, or do you have any knowledge of the fact that NORAD or the United States government actually had, defense had actually detected the invasion or the penetration of Brazilian airspace before this craft was sighted? And these beings that they saw in Brazil certainly weren't grays, unlike anything that falls into our, categorization of extraterrestrials. Any
Right.
idea what they were and what happened to them and the craft?
The first question about NORAD, we're definitely looking into that. There was a lot of rumors about that, and we're going to try to see if we can get to the bottom of that. A friend of mine who recently passed, Dr. Lear, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with him. I spoke with him at great lengths about the whole Varginha case. He was down there the following year. He had spent the day with the doctor who actually operated on the beings, 2 beings believed to be captured. One of them was brought to the hospital, the one that the girls saw, with a broken leg, full-on broken leg. And that was the officer that died that handled the being he died from weird infections and whatnot within 2 weeks. But at the hospital, the military put the being in the operating room. They closed down the whole wing, one of the wings, and the doctors were put in there where the being was covered, and the military closed the door and said, don't come out until this is fixed and you can never talk about it. And so, like I said, this is what Dr. Lear said about the doctor who operated. He said that he, first of all, had the shock of his life when he pulled back the blanket and he saw the dark, oily skin, the bright red eyes, the weird brow ridges. There was 3 of them. And then the broken leg, and the bone was so porous he thought it was an 80-year-old. I mean, that was the bone looked like that. And he started to put the bones together, and he set the bones just to see how it could be fixed. And he said within 10 seconds of the bone touching, it could no longer be pulled apart. It had already started growing together. And then he stitched it up, and they didn't know what to give the being. The being never moved, but it was awake. It never, made any noise or anything like that. And so they took blood. It was similar to human blood, but there was some differences in that. And also, and the being was ambulatory. I guess it was walking within 24 hours. It stayed at the hospital for about 24 hours. So for a completely broken bone to heal within 24 hours is just outrageous. And what he said also is that after the operation, the being started communicating with the doctor. And he said that he had like a big headache, and he had all these things that were downloaded, and the being was communicating with him about how they didn't mean to land here, it was an accident, and that they felt very sorry for humanity because we have the same abilities that they have. We don't know it yet, and we're completely out of touch with our spiritual nature. So he was, of course, completely overwhelmed. And then the military whisked it away, and they were threatened with whatever to remain silent. And then we're not sure exactly what happened to the beings. There are talks about it was removed. It died within 24 hours is what one story was. And then, of course, the stories are that then the U.S. military came in and took it away. And it's just all been covered up. And when you try to talk to people, we have offered people money. We went down there in October last year, and people just won't speak because they're like, they will kill my family if I tell you. I mean, it's that bad. So, but it's definitely, the story is unbelievable. And the creature, the 2 of them were seen running around town. I mean, it wasn't, they were in the woods, and many people saw them. So, I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, additionally, it was coincidental that the United States came there, descended upon the site during this.
In the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, during this happening. And one of the trade-offs that one of the generals we interviewed said was Brazil ended up with an astronaut on the shuttle. And that's, happened at the same time. So there is some pretty persuasive evidence on these types of things.
But the doctor who operated on the being died? Is that correct?
No, he's still alive, but
Okay.
he will not talk.
I see.
He's no longer at that hospital. It's understandable. Basically, people are afraid.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you.
Yes, I just have one question. Do you think that airplane that has disappeared is UFO related?
It's funny that you say that, because my own father, I don't know what story has been going around the internet or Facebook or whatnot, my own father sent me a text message. It's like, did the aliens take it? I'm like, I don't know. I can't see what the aliens will possibly want with this antiquated flying apparatus and a bunch of terrified humans. That's just me.
Well, I would say that when you have that sort of type of thinking, I'm not saying that it's impossible. Anything is possible in today's world or universe. But those types of things kind of feed into the misinformation and the dumbing down of the UFO phenomena, right? Because, you know, likely that aircraft had some sort of mishap. CNN hopefully someday will get a little bit tired of the story. And when there's something new to report, I just wish they would spend that much effort in all the little missing black children and white children too, but black kids never get news time for that sort of thing. If they would spend that much effort on that, we'd probably find some of these kids. So we'll see. All right, I don't think there's any connection at all. If there were evidence of it, then certainly, you know, things would. I titled my speech today as "The Worst Kept Secret." Everyone keeps talking about this secret. What's the secret? I mean, there's what 800 people in the room, and all over. It's not a secret. It's just which information is accurate. One of the unfortunate things that have happened to us is that the reason why you see some of the old cases that you present is because when you see a photograph, what was it, the Hynek photographs back in the flying saucer on a Polaroid, right? We actually got to hold the originals there in the film. When you see those photographs, there wasn't photoshopping at the time, there wasn't digital, so it's easier to validate that. With today, you know, with drones, and there's so many ways to try to trick the camera, and, you know, Russell Crowe, whom, you know, we're talking to, he had a sighting. They very quickly discounted it and said, you know, it was just lights. And Russell came out and said, hey, look, I'm an Oscar-winning actor. I know about lighting, right? So you get that sort of thing. So there are a lot of celebrities in here that are willing to step up to the plate now. So we'll see what happens.
Hi there. I'd like to know if our radar system picks up the plasmic vehicles that are out there.
I remember that thing about me being the stupidest guy in the room.
Yeah.
This is an example of that. I have no idea.
Oh, okay.
No, we have a lot of people. I'm sure that if you even Googled that, you'd probably be able to find it. I don't know.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Have you experienced any fear or threats with this project?
You know, I was born in the projects in Cleveland, Ohio. I kind of not afraid of anything. I think part of my success is that, you know, when you grow up and there's heroin addicts over here and people that just want to play basketball like me over there, you know, it's none that I know of. People that we have talked to, there are folks like the folks in Varginha that we actually finally got to interview. They were very reticent about coming on. So there is a certain amount of fear there. And fear comes from two sources. It's the lack of understanding and somebody messing with you.
Yes,
right?
I wondered if you'd had any like strange thoughts injected into your brain that, you know, that you thought, where did that come from?
Oh, every day, trust me.
Well,
and have you attempted to have some extraterrestrial collaborators on this film? Have you tried to contact?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do, and we've talked. I am Italian, by the way. But yeah, we've had a lot of collaboration. You know, we've interviewed Dolores. Well, not with beings, if that would.
Yeah, that's what I'm after. Is the real deal.
Well, not that I know of, but I did meet John Alexander.
I think in indirect ways, and a few of us are having our own sort of experiences. I think from the inside there is guidance, and it is being pushed in a certain direction, and there is help. I absolutely believe that.
Are you having good dreams to help you with the film?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Aloha.
Aloha.
I just wanted to let you know, I just gotten another source, but two separate independent sources have stated that the plane that was missing was hijacked. It's in Arabia, and I guess the people, I don't know what that happened to people, but I guess apparently this guy bought the plane, and they put it in his backyard, and he's taking claim for all this.
Awesome. So the aliens are off the hook then.
Yeah.
Love it.
There you go.
Are you going to do Dolores Cannon's story, Five Lives Remembered?
Actually, I'm working with the Cannons on that as a separate project, not related to 701. But I think Dolores' story is absolutely phenomenal. Just phenomenal. I mean, it gets into areas. She's very humble. She doesn't really talk about it, but she is the story. Five Lives Remembered is the story she wrote. But the plan is to intertwine her life story with Five Lives Remembered because, 40 years ago, talking about the subject matter that she engages in, she was, in some ways treated like one of the Salem witches, right? She's an amazing person, and hopefully, that's one of the things that I, certainly am committed to trying to do. And Dolores was interviewed for the 701 film because she's got a lot to say.
Yes, she does.
Mm-hmm.
Briefly back to music. Have you interviewed any of the members of the Moody Blues and heard any of their stories?
No, I have not, but I actually played with Justin many, many years ago, and I was a musician early on. So.
Hi. When you were talking about the surgery of this creature, photographs had to have been taken, correct? And where are they?
Who knows? They took blood, they took x-rays. The military took everything and threatened everyone.
And nobody took pictures of it from outside the surgery, or?
I don't know. If there was some rumors that there was some film, but it was never recovered, or people, like I said, people have been threatened very severely.
Is this going to be included in the movie 701, this creature?
The whole case is, absolutely.
Okay, so you know what it looks like, or?
Yes.
Great, can't wait.
You had enough time. It's my turn, biatch. Any other questions? I guess we're done.
Okay, thank all of you. I told you she's a Nordic. Thank you very much for giving us your time and attention. This time next year, we're hopeful that the film will be coming to a theater near you, and we'll see you around, I'm certain. So thank you all very, very much.